night spreadsheet glow, head full of forecasts, eyes running slow. I've been trading my time for forecasts, like it can't run out slow. Quietly win, I've been trading my time quietly in, like it can't run out slow. Quietly win, I've checked every box that they said to check. Still there's this question I can't erase. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not giving up, I'm staying in. But something has to shift. I know the language of targets and charts. Can't hit every metric and still lose my heart. The world's moving fast, I feel it in waves. Maybe real progress means turning the page. What if the future is ours to redraw? Not just a script we inherit by law. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead to where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not stepping back, I'm leaning in. But something has to shift. Changes in chaos, it's choosing a truer line. Saying this matters with how we spend our time. If I want a different world, it has to start in me. In every quiet choice, in how I lead, how I speak. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. We've been climbing ladders, let's rebuild what they really mean. We don't need escape, we need a deeper way to give. We're not giving up, we're standing here. And something's gonna shift. And something's gonna shift. Another late night spreadsheet glow, head full of forecasts, eyes running slow. I've been trading my time like it can't run out. Quietly winning, quietly in doubt. I've checked every box that they said to check. Still there's this question I can't erase. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not giving up, I'm staying in. But something has to shift. I know the language of targets and charts. Can hit every metric and still lose my heart. The world's moving fast, I feel it in waves. Maybe real progress means turning the page. What if the future is ours to redraw? Not just a script we inherit by law. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead to where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not stepping back, I'm leaning in. But something has to shift. Changes in chaos, it's choosing a truer line. Saying this matters with how we spend our time. If I want a different world, it has to start in me. In every quiet choice, in how I lead, how I speak. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. We've been climbing ladders, let's rebuild what they really mean. We don't need escape, we need a deeper way to give. We're not giving up, we're standing here. And something's gonna shift. And something's gonna shift.
All right. How is everyone doing? Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? I want to get our feedback from the chats. Can you all hear me? How is everyone doing? We'll be starting in about 5 minutes time. Let's, allow other people to join. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes time. 5 minutes we get kick started. I'm super excited about what we'll be, talking about today, because there is absolutely a lot to learn. There's absolutely a lot to learn. So we would get kick started in the next 5 minutes. But before then, feel free to go ahead and introduce where you are joining us from on the chats. Feel free to do that. On the chat, you can mention where you are joining us from, and we would connect back in the next 5 minutes.
Another late night spreadsheet glow, head full of forecasts, eyes running slow. I've been trading my time like it can't run out, quietly winning, quietly in doubt. I've checked every box that they said to check. Still there's this question I can't erase. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not giving up, I'm staying in. But something has to shift. I know the language of targets and charts. Can hit every metric and still lose my heart. The world's moving fast, I feel it in waves. Maybe real progress means turning the page. What if the future is ours to redraw? Not just a script we inherit by law. Something has to shift. More than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead to where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not stepping back, I'm leaning in. But something has to shift. Changes in chaos, it's choosing a truer line. Saying this matters with how we spend our time. If I want a different world, it has to start in me. In every quiet choice, in how I lead, how I speak. Something has to shift. More than just the numbers on the screen. We've been climbing ladders. Let's rebuild what they really mean. We don't need escape, we need a deeper way to give. We're not giving up, we're standing here. And something's gonna shift. And something's gonna shift.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and jump into it. I welcome everyone that is joining us. I can see I'm joining from Port Harcourt, I'm joining from Lagos, I'm joining from Abuja, I'm joining from Osun State. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to welcome every one of us. I want to welcome every one of us, and it's good to have us here once again. It felt like, a little break was taken. I remember our very first session, the Invisible Workers. It was amazing, and I'm glad for us to be having the next session. And this is absolutely brought to you by the AI Leverage Academy. And one of the missions of the AI Leverage Academy is to be able to spot the top 1% and to be able to help you with what is currently happening in the world now, and see how you can leverage on artificial intelligence to build systems and structures that helps your business to scale. Okay, so I just want to welcome every one of us here, and if you're excited to be here, I want to see some of your excitement in the chats because we'll be getting kick started. If you know anyone that needs to be here, they are not here, please reach out to them and let them know that we have actually started. We have actually started. Okay. And one of the goals that I have, or one of the visions that I have, is to be able to create a community, to create an environment where knowledge is being dispensed, and that knowledge able to accelerate your progress. Because one of the reasons why we find out that individuals do not really make progress is because they have not, they have not positioned themselves in the right environment that gives them the right knowledge, who which will take them, to the next level. Okay, so one of the things that we want to be able to accomplish is to make sure that this environment becomes that environment that positions you as an individual to be able to make progress in whatsoever thing that you are doing. And I must tell us personally, different people have different opinions, but with the way the world is moving, I must say that this is the best time for me. This is the best time for me. Different individuals, they have different opinions. It feels like you hear people say things that there is lack of opportunity. You hear people say things like, things are very, very difficult and all of that. But sometimes it just feels like the what they are looking at is actually the wrong picture. Okay, because in the midst of everything that is happening, there are opportunities that are being created, and those that are very intentional are those people that begin to align themselves, to tap into those opportunities. And you don't want to be ignorant of that. And there is a lot that is happening in the world from a global standpoint. Every one of us, we know what artificial intelligence is and what it is currently doing. And it is not just a hype. I know there is a lot of hype around it. I know there are people that are saying, that are doing different things about it, when it comes to artificial intelligence. But in the midst of every hype that we see, there is actually something driving it. Okay, so the most important thing for individuals is not to focus on the hype that they continuously see, but to step back and begin to ask themselves, how can I be able to take advantage of what is actually happening and use it to be able to transform my life? And I want to tell you that there has not been any better time in the universe than this time for you to be able to do that. Now, the disadvantage of that is that there is a whole lot of information overload. So people, they don't even know, what to believe any longer. People, they don't even know, what to pay attention to any longer. But in the midst of that information overload, there are a whole lot of information that has the capacity to take you from one level to the other. Okay, so today we are looking at something that is very, very important, a very important session. And the title of our session is the income architecture, building or how to design earnings that grow whether you show up or not. Okay, the income architecture, how you can be able to position yourself. Excuse me, let me fix this. How you can be able to position yourself, and build income that lasts. And I love that word, an architect, because we'll be looking deeply into what that word really, really entails and how it can help you build correctly. Okay, one of the things that I like to say every single time is it is not about what you build, it is about how you build it. Okay, we have people that have always paid attention to what they are building, but in that process, they don't pay attention to how they build it. And because they don't pay attention to the how, they get to a point where it becomes extremely difficult to make progress because they were in a haste to carry out the what they are building, but they did not pay attention to how they can effectively build what they are building. Okay, so we are considering the income architecture. And I want to tell every one of us here that, and I want you to start seeing this from a standpoint of how you think. 1 year is enough for you to change your income life. I don't care, where you are when it has to do with your income life, but 1 year of absolute intentionality 1 year of working with the right strategy, 1 year of having the right knowledge body, 1 year of being in an environment that can help you to grow can be able to change your income life. Not 5 years, not 10 years, not 15 years, 1 year. Okay. But the problem with a lot of people most times is that they build like laborers. That's the problem with a lot of people. They build like laborers and they don't build like an architect. So if you want to be able to make accelerated progress with whatever you're doing, you have to come to that point, you have to come to that place to stop building like a laborer. What consists the characteristics of a laborer? You find out that a laborer works very hard, a laborer always shows up, a laborer has to commit a lot of effort. That means effort is equivalent to whatever earnings that laborer is going to get. So we have to come to that place to stop building like a laborer and start thinking like an architect. And just that distinction alone can impact everything that you are building. Just that decision alone. Now, don't get me wrong. There is absolutely nothing wrong with hard work. I usually tell people you have to work hard before you even start working smart. Okay? There's nothing wrong with hard work. So we are not diminishing the power of hard work. Okay? But when you work hard, you also have to come to that place to start thinking of how to work smart. And that should be more like a model that encompasses whatever you are building as an individual. Whatever you are building as an individual. So we are talking about the income architecture, and we are going to really, talk about what characterizes someone that we call an architect. Okay, what characterizes that person? And in seasons like this, when you begin to think differently, when you begin to think uniquely, you set yourself apart. And for you to even be able to think that differently and uniquely, you have to be able to understand, certain principles. And that's why I pity people that, they feel like with the whole wave of artificial intelligence, I don't need to do anything. I don't have to be a critical thinker. I just put in something within ChatGPT and then it gives me a solution and I run with it. You are just going to be running in the wrong direction. And that's the reality. You'll be absolutely running in the wrong direction. Because what you would come to discover is that if you don't apply your critical thinking ability, whether it has to do with different LLMs, you would be getting a high dimension of hallucination. Answers that looks very cute, but those answers are not leading you anywhere. They are not moving the needle. So even in your use of artificial intelligence, you also have to think correctly. Okay, and that is one of the characteristics of an architect. An architect thinks differently. An architect, draws a plan. An architect pours a foundation, he raises the wall, and then, the building stands. But he does not start with the building. He starts with a plan. He starts with a blueprint. And that's where a lot of people miss it many times. People, they want to start with the building, but they don't really have a plan that is solid enough. They don't have a plan that is solid enough. And in the end, they get to discover that because they don't have a plan that is solid enough, they are just building in thin air. When you look at a building, the way humans are designed a lot of times is when they look at the building, they begin to appreciate how beautiful the building is. But many a times they fail to understand that what is actually keeping the building is the foundation. The foundation is not visible, but the strength of the foundation has the capacity to be able to retain the structure of the building. So when you begin to plan your life from that standpoint, as an architect, to design the plan, to deploy the plan, you get to find out that it shapes every other thing that you are doing in life, whether it's business, whether it's your career, whether it's even family. This thinking process, it cuts across different areas of your life, different areas of your life. So as you go through life, the goal is not for you to be busy. The goal is for you to be free. The goal is for you what? The goal is for you to be free. And that's what the architect does. The architect comes and he carries out the design. And because he already has the design, he does not need to be present to see that building come into reality. The other people that need to build, they look from the blueprints and they follow the design. And they follow the design. So, as we go on this subject today, I want us to really look at 5 distinctions or 5 distinct traits that characterizes the architect. 5 distinct traits that characterizes the architect. The first one is the architect always builds with the end in view. I want you to take note of this. I want you to take note of this. You have to build with the end in view. A lot of times, people build without thinking about the end. A lot of times, we have been cultured in a way that, we just have this mindset of just get started. And then when you start building, you are not seeing ahead of what you're building. Just imagine when you're driving a car and you can't see what is in front. What happens? You're going to crash, right? The problem is not about starting to drive the car. The problem is because you cannot see what is ahead, you don't have visibility into what is ahead. There is every tendency that you're going to crash. And that's how a lot of people start building. But that is not how an architect builds. So before even a brick is being picked up, the architect makes sure that what? The blueprint is finished. He makes sure that different levels of measurements, different levels of, the room, the size of the room, everything is conceptualized. So he has not even started building, or the builder have not even started building, but he's already envisioning what the destination of what he's building, what that is going to look like. That is powerful. So this cuts across, when you are building, you have to come to that place to see the end in view. Where is this taking me to? What is the destination? Do I have a workflow? You don't need to figure out everything completely. Okay? You don't need to, it doesn't need to be perfect. It can be refined as you go along. But make sure that you already have a plan of what the destination looks like. I call it the top to bottom approach. the top to bottom approach. You look at the destination and then you begin to build your milestones from that destination. I want to be a graphic designer. What's the destination? Where is this leading me into? Is the destination to have a major brand that trains other graphic designers, and that you have to have that picture in your mind, not just only in your mind, you need to have the blueprint of it. And that's why a lot of times, even before people start business, there's a lot of recommendation. You need to have a business plan. People don't invest in doing something as simple as a business plan. And the reason they don't do that is because they are not looking at the end. They just want to what? They just want to get started. So you find out that many people build their income backward. So they see something that is, working for someone else, and they just start laying the bricks immediately. They don't have any blueprints. The blueprint is not pointing them to any destination. They don't have any form of positioning. They don't have any perspective about the end in view. And what happens is, because I mentor a lot of people and I see this happen over and over again. What happens is they have not started up to 6 months. They're already tired. They're already exhausted. Because if you don't get the blueprints and you don't intentionally plan looking at the end in view, there are a lot of obstacles that you would not be prepared for, that you would meet on the way. Now, when you meet those obstacles, it's either it takes you back to create a blueprint or to create a plan. But why not create it at that initial time? Are we following what I'm saying? Is it making sense to you? Okay, so we need to come to that place where we are not building backward. We need to come to that place where we are building, having the end in view, even from the beginning. Even from the beginning. Stephen Covey said something. He said, every building is first built twice. Every building is first built twice. Once in the mind and once in the world. So every building is first built twice. You have to conceptualize it within. Now, the problem is, if you have not been able to develop yourself to be an architect, you will find out that you would have a lot of income problems. And the income problem will not be coming from the standpoint of you not putting in efforts. No, it's not going to be coming from there. The income problem will be coming because you have not been able to see the end from the beginning. So this points us to the importance of having that ability. It is an ability. It is an ability. Having that ability to be able to look at an idea, whether the idea is already existing, whether that idea has already been deployed and is already functional, you can be able to still look at it and you can see so far. You can see the end. And because you have that ability to see the end, you begin to create milestones that are actually moving the needles. Many of us, what we invest our time doing to scale or to grow whatever we are building, are things that are not actually helping us. So you find out that effort is not even translating to results because what effort is being invested in is not something that has the ability to give you results. It's not something that has the ability to give you results. So the first distinction of an architect is building with the end in view. Building with the end in view. The second is updated thinking ability. Updated thinking ability. Now, an architect is not going to use the same process that he used in 2002 in 2025. So when you see an architect that is, drawing by the hand, you get to find out that that architect is not going to technically go far. An architect of the 2025 century, what that person is going to do, the person is going to leverage on, there's a lot of, architectural tools that he's going to leverage on that would help whatever he's building to be faster and to give the right level of quality. So what does this tell you as a builder? It tells you that your thinking is your primary building material. Your thinking is your primary building material. So if you're still using the same mental framework that you're using 5 years ago, and you have not been able to update your thinking ability with what is currently happening now, then you will find out that you are behind. If you're still trying to grow your income with a mindset, you have to start questioning certain things. Sometimes I ask myself, why is it the structure of 8 to 5? Why is it that we have a structure like that? Why is it that, for you to have businesses, you have to follow these same principles, that it looks as if this has been the tradition of what people have believed in? Now, don't get me wrong, it may work in the past, but you have to start positioning yourself in such a way that you are not building with outdated tools. As a builder, there are certain components that you must pay attention to. You see time, you see speed. You have to pay attention to those things. Whatever has the ability to give you speed with the right quality is an advantage, is leverage. So when you're updating your thinking ability, you're updating it from that standpoint of what is it that has the ability to give me speed. Remember, I started with us. It is not about what you build, it is about how you build. Now, these are the mental pictures that reframes, restructures, redefines how you build. That is what restructures it. How you build. So you have to start thinking. We are currently in a season and in a phase of not just only artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence has been around for a very long time. But we are in a season where we are seeing the wave of agentic artificial intelligence. And that is something that has never happened before. So when you're updating your thinking ability, you are doing it from that standpoint of, how can I be able to tap into the season? How can I be able to use this, to be able to create something that multiplies, that does not need my constant presence? When you begin to think from that dimension or direction, it begins to affect and shape everything that you are building. There's a lot of speculations that in the next 5 years, almost it might even happen before the next 5 years. Almost every single job that you are doing, there would be a dimension of artificial intelligence in it. And we see a whole lot of wave of that. And how should you be thinking this time? Stay updated with what is happening from a global perspective. What is happening with the big five industries? What is happening with organizations like Amazon? What is happening with organizations like Google? What is happening with organizations like Microsoft? What is happening with organizations like IBM? You want to know what is happening in these places. Now, when you are aware of that, you begin to shape your own narrative. Yes, you may not have the level of infrastructure that they have, but I can tell you that you have a simulated aspect of the advantage that they have. So you see what they are doing. And what they are doing currently is that many of those organizations, they are actually replacing employees with AI agents. That is not hype. That is the present reality. So what happens is you begin to see that over the next couple of years, the more they have success in whatever they are doing, the more other organizations start to emulate them. And the law of the corporate world is when you see your neighbor doing something else and it's working for that neighbor, you begin to copy. That's why ChatGPT came out. Before we closed our eyes and opened, we saw Google Gemini, we saw, Grok, we saw other forms of LLMs. Because once they see that this is working for this person, they begin to invest in it. They begin to pump a lot of money in it. So you need to begin to understand what is currently happening in the world as of today, and how does that affect whatever I'm building. A lot of people will tell you, oh, don't worry about that, don't mind that, last every person is going to be all right. No. If you don't plan properly, you will get to find out that you would end up missing out. You will end up missing out. So what is currently happening now is something that is creating chains of opportunities. Chains of different dimensions of opportunities. But if you have not started thinking in that direction, you cannot seize what you're not thinking about. You cannot get what you are not thinking about. So part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is to begin to create that awareness. In your free time, go through the different LLMs, interact with them, begin to have an understanding of how these things work. Begin to have an understanding about the weakness of one, about the strengths of the other. Begin to incorporate it in what you're building, not from the perspective of garbage in, garbage out. No. But from the perspective of real thinking. Because what people don't realize is even with artificial intelligence, if you don't direct it correctly, it will take you to a destination that you are not actually going to. It will take you to a destination that you are not actually going to. So what is the third distinction of an architect? The creative mindsets. The creative mindsets. An architect is not a calculator. Yes, they understand, different things about load-bearing math, structural engineering, But what separates the great architect from the average one is their creative vision. Is their creative vision. And what does that mean? What that means is they had the ability to look at probably an empty land, a land that nobody wants to even think about. And they're already seeing a building that does not exist in that place. You have to train your mind. You have to be able to train your mind in that way. You have to be able to train your mind to see opportunities and not problems. You have to be able to train your mind to be able to see different pain points that people are going through and see how to redefine the narrative. You have to be able to train your mind in such a way that you're able to provide solutions that are irresistible. You have to train your mind in that way that you are willing to keep on improving. You're willing to keep on improving in whatever you are doing. Large organizations, what they do is they have a section or a time when they usually talk about, process improvements. So during that time, what they do is they look at what they have been doing, what is working, what is not working, and they begin to brainstorm how they can be able to improve their processes. So we need to come to that point of having that dimension or that level of creative mindsets. Creative mindsets. In times like this, I saw something that was very, very funny. And what was that? I saw, the whole war happening in Iran and this thing. It was just a video, a video that somebody made. And what actually happened is, the whole war that is happening between the US and Iran, there was someone that actually traveled to Iran in the midst of the war. And what that person traveled to Iran to be able to do is to be able to get condemned vehicles. Because as a result of the war, they will be bombing vehicles and all of that. So the person traveled to Iran to be able to get those condemned vehicles. Now, that's fictional. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. But what that is pointing to is that in the midst of problems, there are people that are actually thinking of opportunities. In the midst of problems, there are people that are what? There are people that are actually thinking of opportunities. So begin to have that creative mindset. How can I become a solution? How can I what? How can I become a solution? Okay. And the next thing that characterizes an architect is the ability to invest in the boring things. The ability to invest in the boring things. We like the beautiful things. The building, the end of the building, the products, the end product of that building is very beautiful. But laying the foundation is very boring. It's very boring. So a lot of times people focus on the aspect of the beautiful parts, the outcome, the results. But when you learn to do the boring things, you become that person that is exceptional. When anybody comes to see a building, what they are taking photograph of is the actual building. Oh, this building is looking very beautiful. Nobody is taking photograph of the foundation. But the most important part of the building is the foundation. Is the foundation. Yes, the foundation is invisible, but it is also expensive. The foundation is not cheap. The foundation is going to demand your time. I was talking with a great man some time ago, and he made a comment that really blew my mind. He said, I spend 80% of my time to think, and I spend 20% to move. And just thinking about it, it began to make a lot of sense. Because the thinking is the boring part. The strategizing is the boring part. So how many of us in whatever we are building, spend a lot of time to be able to do different things? Most organizations, before they go about releasing a product, it goes from a stage of idea to a stage of validation, and then they can be able to now do a lot of market testing. And after the market testing, they can now release their MVP, minimum viable products, and then continue to improve it. But there's a whole lot of process before they get to that destination. Many people, even in the process of market validation, they spend a lot of time to be able to get it right. Now, I'm not saying that you're waiting for perfection. No. But I'm saying that as you are deploying, because even when we talk about MVP is more like the minimum viable product. So it's not yet a perfect product, but it's actually a product that has the ability to give value. Okay, so as you are investing in building whatever you're building, also invest in strategy, also invest in brainstorming, also invest in process improvements, also invest in just spending time to think and to learn. Because what I've seen people do over the time is that they get to a point where they are so used to what they have been doing, and for the last 6 months, 8 months, they have not been able to review the outcome of what they are doing. So invest in the boring things. That consistency that makes you to show up day after day, invest in it. Invest in it. That skill that you need to refine, that positions you better. The understanding of the audience that actually needs that skill. The reputation that you need to build, to constantly deliver. The systems that you need to build. Invest in those things. Because what happens is that if you don't invest in those things, as you progress, you would find out that you are also stuck. You will find out that you are stuck. And that's why you get a lot of people that actually start something and then they disappear in the process, because the foundation does not have the ability to hold what they are building. So remember, I started by telling us that a year is enough to be able to change where you are at the moment. It doesn't matter if you're in a good place, you can be in a better place. It doesn't matter if you're in a better place, you can be in the best place. It doesn't matter if you're in a bad place, you can actually be in a good place. But you need to start thinking like an architect and not what? And not a laborer. And not a laborer. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. A few simple disciplines that you practice what? That you practice every day. So I'm going to say this in two ways. The first way, or the first aspect, is the boring things that consist of, consistency and discipline and all those other good stuff. You want to make sure that that becomes your foundation. But then beyond that, the other thing that has to do with, your creative ability, your thinking ability, because you can also be consistent in the wrong direction. As good as consistency is, if you're doing it without the right strategy, you would still end up not seeing the results that you desire, as good as it is. So it is not enough to say that I am consistent. No, it is not enough. But you have to start putting all these other elements and ingredients that actually make up who an architect is. And you have to begin to think in that direction. And with the wave of artificial intelligence, the people that are actual architects, they can be able to amplify whatever results that they want to see. They can be able to amplify it, because that's what artificial intelligence is going to help you to. When you think properly, when you think with the right framework, when you think with the right model, when you think with the right principles, that means you have to know them to be able to think in that direction. You can be able to direct artificial intelligence in the right place to give you results that are unimaginable. So let's talk about, what separates businesses that last from businesses that collapse. What are the things that actually separate businesses that last? Warren Buffett always asks a question before he invests in any business. And the question he usually asks is, what is stopping someone else from taking their customers? What is stopping someone else from taking their customers? And if the answer is nothing significant, he walks away. When you are building, it is okay to start small, but your thinking process should be, this thing that I'm building, what is actually going to stop others from taking my clients or my customers? What is it that is within what you are doing that gives you that unique selling point? That is another way to rephrase that question. That gives you what? That unique selling point. When I go online and I see, people talking about business and all of that, I see a lot of individuals that are actually duplicating what every other person is doing. You go on Facebook, you see more than 10,000 people say I'm a content writer. what distinguishes you from other content writers? If you have a client, what is that client going to look about you? And when we say these things, it is not coming from a place of you have to do anything really, really big. It's not necessarily coming from that place. It is the small things. And the I usually make a comment. I usually say this is the best time for businesses. And when I say those things, people don't understand why I say that with so much passion. I say that with so much passion. It doesn't mean that if you start a business today, you become a billionaire tomorrow. No. And that's a wrong way to even look at a business. Because if you're looking at a business from that standpoint of, oh, I want to start it today and I just want to, blow and all of that, you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. You're looking at it from a wrong perspective. But when you're starting a business and you're thinking about what kind of foundations can I lay that will make me to stay in business in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, and you're paying attention to that while you're building other aspects of that business, you become indispensable. You become indispensable. And what artificial intelligence has done for us now is when you have that right mental picture, you can be able to create your unique selling point very easily. You can be able to create your unique selling points. Your unique selling point is going to come from how you think. It's going to come from how, the levels of dimensions of understanding that you have about certain things. So if you have not spread yourself to understand, if you have not created environments around you that expands your scope of knowledge, that expands your understanding of how business should function or how different things should function, you find out that you end up being very disadvantaged. You end up what? You end up being very, very disadvantaged. So you need to have the mental picture first. I used to tell people, in this era, those that put a little effort, just a little effort, to understand systems and structures, they would outpace every other person that is just running blindly. And how do you do that? It's very, very simple. Let me just give us an example of how my day goes. So I'm a very, very busy person, okay? But because I work from home, if I'm working, it's either I'm playing something that makes me to understand the larger picture of what is happening in the world from a business standpoint. It could be a podcast. It could be, one thing or the other that still keeps sharpening my mind. I usually take 1 hour walks every day. If I'm not talking to people that I'm mentoring during that time, I am spending that time listening to some form of podcast that enlightens my understanding. And let me tell you what that does. Sometimes when I come to interact with LLMs, I already have a large knowledge bank to communicate with it. So I find out that it gives me much more better answers. When I even come to create simple things like a GPT within these LLMs, I am able to put certain frameworks and structure to it that amplifies whatever results that I want to see. So it is not necessarily the artificial intelligence that is doing it. It is because I am investing in making sure that I create an environment that makes my knowledge bank to keep expanding. So what separates businesses that will last from the ones that will collapse is understanding your unique selling points. What makes you specifically hard to replace? If I look at your business, I look at your offer, what makes it very difficult for me to be able to move away from you? What makes it very, very difficult? If you have not started thinking from that standpoint with whatever you're building, if you're just investing time, there are two kinds of people. There are people that just run with emotion. So they are just running. Oh, I need to do this. You see this idea, you're already deploying it. But if you don't start thinking with these operating principles, you find out that you would end up seeing that you don't get a lot of results because you're not dealing with a bigger picture. So if I want to use artificial intelligence for my business or anything, I'm not using it from a standpoint of, just, oh, give me ideas that I can work on. I'm using it from that standpoint of, making it to understand my personality, making it to understand my knowledge gap, my knowledge bank, what I know, the principles that I know, the frameworks that I know. And these are workable frameworks. And deploying it from that place of knowledge to be able to solve specific problems for me. So you need to know what makes you unique. And that thing is always a combination of a specific skill that is applied to a specific audience, that is delivered through a specific system. I want us to listen carefully to this. And that is backed by a documented track record. That thing that is your unique selling point, that thing that makes you very good, is a combination of your specific skill or some specific skill that you have that is applied to specific audience, that is delivered through a specific system, and also backed by a documented track record. What I just mentioned now is going to be absolutely boring for 99% of people. And do you know why? Because they are not thinking like an architect. They are looking for the beautiful building, but they are not looking for the blueprints. They're looking for the beautiful building. They just want to build. And the worst thing to do in life is to build blindly. That's the worst thing to do in life. So why people tell you, just get started. Just get started intentionally. The least you can do for yourself while getting started is to have your minimum viable products. And that minimum viable product should have gone through process of market testing, validation, idea, conceptualization. So even though it is minimum, there's a large level of investment in it. There's a large aspect of investment in it. So that is the first thing that you need to understand. And the other thing that you need to understand that separates businesses is the framework by Alex Hormozi, where he talks about the value equation. The value equation. And I want us to listen to this. The value equation is more like the value of any offer that you're giving is equal to the dream outcome. I want to know how many mathematicians are here. At the end of saying this, if you understand it, I want you to put in the chat, I understand. If you don't understand it, I want you to ask for more clarity. It says the value of any offer equals the dream outcome multiplied by how believable it is and divided by the time it takes and the efforts required. If you translate this into your income architecture, it is going to be very, very powerful. So the first thing is the value that you're giving. But the value is not even enough, because the same value that you're giving, some other persons are also giving that same value. I remember during the past class, the AI income multiplication engine class by the AI Leverage Academy, and I talked to us about the power in your offer. The power in your offer, and how, many people have to go back to look at their offer. To look at their offer. And it doesn't matter the kind of business that you're, even if you're a pepper seller, there is a kind of offer that you can give that becomes very, very attractive. So this has nothing to do, with the type of business that you're doing. These are principles that we cut across, different level of business. So if you want to come to a point, you need to start offering different tiers of offer that give different dimension of value. You have to give an offer that is targeted, you have to give an offer that targets the high ticket offers. You have to give an offer that targets the middle class, the rich, the middle class, the poor. And these are things that, just thinking about it, you can be able to create it. You can be able to create it. So you have to start thinking about your business in that dimension. And you have to make sure that the offer that you're giving, the value that you're giving actually matches the offer. Now, Alex will also say something. He said, if you want people to pay more, you must do one of these 4 things. The first one is you must make the promised outcome to be bigger and more specific. You have to promise people, something in such a way that what you're giving them is much more bigger. Let me use this very small example that might come home. I remember growing up, there's a woman we call Mama Bato that myself and my cousin would always want to go and buy things from her. Mama Bato, that's her name. And the reason that we always want to go and buy something from her is when you buy gari or you buy rice or anything, she will show you, she said, okay, I've put everything for you, but this is your jara. And her jara, we all know what jara is, right? Her jara used to be very big. So just that alone. So what does that really entail? What does that really entail? That entails that this woman is actually giving me the value for what my money deserves, and the person is going an extra mile. The jara is an extra mile. Does that make sense? The jara is what? The jara is an extra mile. And because the jara that she's giving, or the bonus that she's giving, is actually bigger, so you want to be able to make sure that the promised outcome is always bigger and it is more specific. It is always bigger, and it is what? It is more specific. The next thing is you want to be able to make it believable through proof and credentials. You want to be able to make it believable through proofs and credentials. Yes, to some persons, you may not be able to, build that quickly, but invest in making that possible. When you give something that is good, people will naturally tilt towards your direction because what you're giving is actually good. So you need to make it, more believable, through your proof and your credential. And then you also need to reduce how long it takes for them to get what results. So do you see some of the things that are important to pay attention to that many builders are not actually paying attention to? How many people come to that point to start thinking and investing time in saying, this thing that I'm doing or this thing that I'm selling, it actually takes people more time to get results. How can I make them to be able to get results in lesser time? And you begin to think and you begin to commit your time to it. Remember, as a builder, you're strategic when you know what to invest your time in. It is not everything that you invest your time in that is equally important. It is not everything that you invest your time in that is equally important. No. So from a place of strategy, you have to ask yourself, what is actually moving the needle? What is actually helping me to make more progress? And this is one of them. You reduce how long it takes for the people to get results. Don't be so obsessed in bringing the next big thing without refining what is already existing. Refining. And that's why you see many companies, they use this approach. Why is it that a car company, they keep on bringing new models every year? Why is it that Apple keep on bringing new iPhones every year? Why is it that different things that we indulge in or invest in, they keep on bringing new models every year? Because they are committed to process improvements. Because they know that somebody that is using the iPhone 14 is already anticipating that if iPhone 14 is giving me this level of value, what will iPhone 15 do for me? So that person is already curious. That person is already anticipating because they have seen the value of the current one. So at every point in time, you want to think, how does it reduce the time frame in which the people get results? And also, how does it reduce the difficulty level for them to get there? For them to get there. This is a framework that works for, businesses that are more into, innovation, creating things, solving specific problems for individuals. And the good news is artificial intelligence will help you with all these four things. So that's why everything that you are doing, you have to realize that the market actually pays for the value that is delivered, not the effort that is expanded. The market doesn't care about how much time you put in. I've worked in an organization where initially, one of the aerospace companies that I work in, I found out that I will put in a lot of time to get a particular work done. And then my expectation would be that, my boss is going to realize that I've put in a lot of time. Sometimes I stay almost throughout the night. But what the manager cares about is the results, the outcome. Is it ready or is it not ready? Does it bring solution to the problem or does it not bring solution? So do you know what I started investing in? I started investing in efficiency. How can I, if the manager is interested in the outcome, how can I be able to deliver that dimension of outcome within less time? So I started investing in that. And that's the reality about life. You spend 24 hours, you didn't sleep and all of that. You design something. If it's not good enough, it's not good enough. So you need to start paying attention to how can I be able to replace value for efforts? How can I be able to achieve more in less time? How can I be able to achieve more in less time? When you start thinking that way, you find out that you begin to have certain advantage. Now, what that thinking is going to do for you is going to make you to start thinking in the direction of systems, structures. And that's what a lot of people don't think. The mindset is already, for me to see results, I have to labor. If there is a system that can be able to help me, and this is just an example, if there's a system that can be able to help me, to give me, for instance, 12 short videos as a content creator, ready to post, ready to deliver, why will I decide to go through the manual way of trying to cut those videos myself? That will take me more hours. There's actually an AI tool that can help you with that. You have a very long video. It's called Opus Clip. You have a very long video. It can cut those videos into, how many this thing. It gives it a very nice hook. It gives it, different things that are very nice. So when you start thinking from that standpoint, you're beginning to ask yourself, how can I leverage on, artificial intelligence to be able to do things that will give me the right quality and still give me speed and still deliver the right amount of value that is needed to be delivered? When you start thinking with that mindset, you would find out that you will do more in less time. The problem is many times we have configured ourselves to begin to think or feel guilty if we don't put in a lot of efforts to see the outcome that we want to see. We begin to feel guilty. Have you had people that are very traditional? They will say something like, if you don't pound the yam with mortar and pestle, it's not original. It's all about the mindsets. So there are people that just believe that if I don't labor, then I don't deserve to see results. But businesses that are going to be sustained are businesses that just look from the place of systems and structures and remove themselves from being the bottleneck. And this cuts across every type of business. And when you begin to think from the place of systems and structures, you're even ready to commit revenue. Sometimes that money you want to commit into that business to get more goods, if you commit it to create a better system, it will even help you to scale faster. Because if you're getting more goods, that means more stress for you. So we need to start thinking, differently. I have different AI tools that I use. But before I start using any AI tool, I already know the possibility of how much that tool can be able to generate for me. And I just know that whatever I'm using it for is nothing compared to what it has, like what it can generate for me. And I already defined the structure. I already have a plan of how to start getting whatever I'm paying with that subscription. Some of us, we have to start even paying for some things. Yes, we are not used to it. But that becomes an advantage that distinguishes you from other businesses. But you have to know what you're actually paying for and the capacity of that thing you're paying for to be able to what? To be able to give you the results that you need. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I want us to start having a different mindset. Begin to ask yourself, within that thing that I'm creating, even though it is not yet there yet, how can I be able to bring it to a point where I can be earning while I'm even sleeping? How can I be able to create a system that runs without my constant attention? Because one of the biggest constraints of business or business owners is burnout. And burnout is really real. I don't care how passionate you are. I don't care how, you want to be able to, get dreams and, they get to certain destination. You would come to a point where you just discover that there is a limit that you can be able to go. And that limit is going to constrain you if you don't build systems and structures around it. Because there's no way you can go past that limit. There's just absolutely no way you can go past that limit. So in everything that you're doing, even in the very easy things, begin to think. Don't just be used to a default normal. Who told you that, for you to post content, you have to at every time spend, I have to spend 3 hours a day to create content? Begin to think, what is the easiest way that I can still present that quality of content and I don't need to spend enough time? Who told you that there is just one way or one approach for you to be able to see certain results that you need to see? So you need to start questioning a lot of things that you have already believed and internalized. You need to start questioning those things. You need to start questioning those things. This thing that I'm doing, what system can I put? How can I remove myself? If I get out, that's one thing that I always think. If I get out of this thing that I'm thinking and that I'm doing, does it mean that it dies in my hands? So the more you start thinking about that, it begins to reshape how you build. And it begins to take you out of building like a laborer and bringing you to a place of building like an architect. So understand systems. Understand systems. Is there a system that can take care of my payments? What does that system entails? Is it going to mean that is going to take away customers from just asking me, oh, how much, and every time I spend 3 hours responding to customer, this is the amount of this. What system can I be able to put in place that takes that time away from me? That takes that time away from me. Every morning I have to send emails to maybe 300 people, 400 people. What system can I put in place that will be able to help me with that? When you begin to think from the place of systems, it becomes your leverage. It becomes your leverage. The next thing that helps you to be able to distinguish whatever you're building, or as a business owner, to have a business that stands the test of time. That stands the test of time, and that even runs without you being present. Is coming to a place to define your leverage. This is very, very important. What is my leverage is not going to be your leverage. So you need to understand, what is my leverage? There are people that have time, but they don't have money. There are people that have money, but they don't have time. There are people that have money and time, but they don't have certain levels of influence. They don't have a product. So you need to start understanding your leverage. Let's say you're at a place where you have money, you don't have time. You don't need to be the creator of everything. You can delegate. You can have strategic hires, that any person that you're hiring, that person has the capacity to give you 2-3 times of what is expected over a period of time. So you begin to focus your system building towards the people that you're bringing in. Let's say you have time, you don't have money. You can begin to fill up a lot of knowledge gap. How can I learn? Not just learn. How can I be a master of certain things? Not just being a master of certain things. How can I move to the next level of leveraging certain tools that are available to give me speed? You begin to invest your time in all of that. So you need to come to a place to define your leverage. To define your leverage. Your leverage is going to be different. And there are people within, it can even be an interception of the skills that you have. Probably you're the kind of person that is a people person. And you have the ability to make people to buy into certain visions that you share. That's leverage. So when you begin to define your leverage, it makes you to be able to commit time to certain areas of your life, or certain areas of life that actually matters. That actually matters. Somebody says that efficiency is doing things right. Efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is actually doing the right things. These two things are very different. Very, very different. So efficiency is doing things right. You can be efficient, but not effective. You can be doing things right, but you're not actually doing the right thing. You can be doing things right, but what? You're not actually doing the right thing. And believe you me, many people find themselves in that situation. They are doing things right. They are showing up correctly. They are learning, but they are not learning the right things. They are not learning the things that gives them the advantage. So it's not enough to be efficient. You also have to be effective. You also have to be as effective. And this even borders down to the whole AI thing. Just like I told us, if you use AI wrongly, you're going to activate chaos, more chaos. So it amplifies whatever you do. So you put it in the wrong way, it amplifies it. And it sounds very good. Even automation that I talk about, before you automate, the guy that designed the model for McDonald's. McDonald's is a restaurant in the US that sells the highest amount of burger. But before this guy could, create a model that works across any kind of McDonald's environment that you go to, he had to stay with one first and understand that model, understand patterns, understand certain things, and was able to create a model that could work across board. So even in automation, if you don't automate correctly, if customers are complaining, for instance, and you want to handle an automation process that you have not yet fixed why customers are complaining, you will just automate chaos. You just automate chaos. So you have to be effective. You have to start doing the right thing. The right thing can involve, you understanding the process surrounding your business or the idea that you have if you don't have a business yet. And begin to think, what are the tools? What are the things that I can be able to leverage on that gives me an advantage, that gives me a competitive edge? That gives me a competitive edge. Now, as we are coming to an end, you cannot do business, especially if you want to take advantage of speed, without understanding a lot of advantage that is in your hand currently. So I want every one of us here, if you have not been doing this, begin to do it. If you have been doing it, continue to do it. Remember, I told us from the beginning, if the big five, if the big companies are paying attention to certain things, you will be missing out if you don't start paying attention to those things. Many of the Fortune 500 companies, they are actually laying off. So in the corporate space, it is not a good time for corporate workers, especially from a global perspective. But in the business space, it is the best time for business. Because even small businesses can survive and thrive now in ways that they cannot thrive before. Okay, so understand what that means for you as an individual. Because if you don't understand it, you can't plan. You can't effectively structure what you don't understand. Okay, so I want every one of us to start paying attention. Action point for us, to start thinking about. If you want to be among the top 1%, start understanding different LLMs. Start understanding different LLMs. We have ChatGPT, we have Gemini, we have Claude, we have Grok, we have Perplexity. These are the major ones. Start understanding, and the good thing is many of these LLMs, they have different free versions that you can begin to test run. Don't be among those people that live in ignorance of those things, especially now. You can decide to give yourself 15 minutes to play with different LLMs every day. Understand the capability. You can go to ChatGPT and ask it, what are you capable of doing? What are the new release that you have? It's going to give you all those answers. Begin to understand these things. Very, very important. Understand the capability of cloud. These days, a lot of people, if you go on maybe social media, if you're very distant, I use Claude a lot, you would see the capacity that this thing has. In fact, as of now, it is one of the best that has what is called this agentic ability. It has the ability to, LLMs, they make a lot of mistake, but if you're using what is called Cloud Code or something, it has the ability to correct itself. So understand what is actually happening with these things. Go and play with it. Go and listen to certain podcasts of the creators talking about it. You want to, lack of awareness in times like this will not help your knowledge bank. You can't deploy a tool that you don't understand. Why are you trying to understand it? Because it can be a game changer for you, for your business, for giving you speed, for giving you accuracy, for helping you to be efficient, for helping you to be effective. It can be able to give you those various advantage. Can be able to give you those various advantage. So play with these things. Understand their different strengths, understand their different weakness. Understand ChatGPT, understand. I know there is a whole lot of noise when it has to do with different tools, but I want you to start using these things. When you're using it, begin to think about, how can this thing actually help my business? How can this thing help my business idea? The easiest way to understand it better is begin to give prompts across different LLMs and see the kind of results that you get, the ones that you relate with, the ones that's more aligned to what the prompts that you're giving it. Now, the next thing that you need to start to do is begin to understand how these artificial intelligence tools, is not only the LLMs now, how they can be able to help you. Don't be so fixated with doing things the way that you have always done it. No. Don't be so fixed on doing things the way you've always do it. Begin to ask yourself, how can they help you? You can be able to discover a particular way that they can help you, that you even need to subscribe for the paid version. If you have to do it, that's an investment. But before you do it, understand how you are going to get your ROI, your return on investments. If you're doing a monthly subscription, you don't want to continuously keep doing that in a loss. There are tools that are good for research. When you go to these LLMs, in ChatGPT, understand, how to use the project file. When you're using the project file, you can be able to, customize it in such a way that if you're working on specific projects, you're giving it instructions that is tailored to what you want it to do. Understand how to do that. If you don't ask questions, these days, there is so much information out there that with a click of a button, you can get every single information that you want. Alvin Toffler said something. He says, the illiterates of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that's the truth. The illiterates of the 21st century is not those that cannot read and write. In fact, they can read very well and they can write very well. And that even becomes their limitation. It is those that cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So there is a whole lot of new wave of markets when it has to do with this. You have to find how you fit into that spectrum of markets. You have to find how you fit into that. So begin to think in that direction. And as we close or as we wrap up, I'm going to give you what I call the income architecture framework. And if you commit to doing this for the next 12 months, you're going to see a whole lot of change. Remember, I told you 1 year is a lot to change a lot of things in your life. 1 year is a lot to change a lot of things in your life. Okay, so this framework has 5 layers or 4 layers. The first layer is foundation. The first layer is foundation. I cannot overemphasize the importance of foundation. Foundation. Spend time to learn. Spend time to position yourself. It could even be for just one specific audience. Spend time to position yourself for that. Spend time to document. Leverage on, artificial intelligence tool, ChatGPT, Claude. Help it to be able to use it to, structure your thinking into step-by-step frameworks. Use it to structure your thinking. So lay the foundation. Lay the foundation. The foundation is not visible, but the foundation is very important. The foundation is the boring thing. And that boring thing is what gives you the results that is unimaginable. So invest in the foundation. I know you want to move fast. I know you want to move quick. You can decide to section your time in such a way that, maybe 30% of your time always goes back to the foundation. 70% can go into other things. But make sure that you invest daily, consistent time when it has to do with the foundation. What is going to position me differently? What is going to make me unique? Do I need to learn a skill? Don't think that this wave of artificial intelligence is going to make you excel without knowing. No. It is actually those that know more that can be able to do more with artificial intelligence. So still go back to that foundation of building the right thing. Develop the way you think. Develop your creative ability. Develop different things. Because the difference between the person that actually makes it and the person that does not make it, if you are given both of them the same business, you will find out that they approach it differently. And it's a large portion of how they think. So if I build my ability to think correctly, it is the foundation that impacts every other thing that I do. And one of the effective ways you can do that is to build an environment that expands your knowledge bank. Build an environment that expands your knowledge bank. Know what is happening around the world. Know what is happening around that industry that you're committed to. Know the people that are actually doing well within that industry. Know the people that are actually doing well. The next thing that I want to talk to us about, if you started a business, is your offer. Is your offer. You can be in a place where you are doing something very valuable, but because your offer is mediocre, you are not able to make progress. So if you want to learn a lot about offer, go through, a lot from Alex Hormozi. You would learn a lot. In fact, he has different books. He has different books. Just imagine you read those books and you begin to feed the ideas to ChatGPT or Claude. It's going to amplify whatever you are doing. Okay? So your offer is something that is very important. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. Begin to think about, how can I be able to create something that does not always demand my presence? Now, it is okay. You don't need to rush it. It doesn't have to be, the first thing that you're doing when you start building. Yes, the time you start building will involve your attention, will involve you doing whatever you're doing. But you have to start having a game plan. Remember, we talk about having the end in view. You're not necessarily at that destination, but you are already thinking in that direction. You're already thinking in that direction. You're already thinking in that direction. So you want to make sure that whatever you are doing is not something that demands your constant involvement and attention. You need to invest a portion of your time to make sure that that does not happen. I know sometimes you want to be the CEO. I know sometimes you want to be the face behind everything. But you need to know that there is a cap to that. There's a level your growth gets to. You just discover that if you're trading time for effort, it is no longer sustainable. It is no longer realistic. Okay, so begin early enough to plan that transition. And that transition can happen in different ways. It can happen with systems and structures. It can happen with, thinking from that standpoint of systems. What tools do I need that will give me speed? What kind of workflows can I create that will give me an advantage? Many people don't even think about these things when it has to do with business. They're always thinking about the front layer, the product. How can I market my product? How can I do this? So begin to think in that direction, because that is where income architecture begins to take place. That is where it begins to take place. You want to be able to grow beyond you being involved at every time. The next layer is automation. And this part is very, very important. Automation. But before you automate, you have to make sure that you pay attention to a lot of things. Have you understood your process? Have you understood your business? Have you understood, the possible weakness, the weak chain within your business? Because if you automate chaos, you're going to get more chaotic. Very, very important. So you want to start understanding. Can I build an AI bot? Or can I have someone to build an AI bot for me that understands my business 100%, that can reply to customers, that can, even be a marketing agent? It is already happening. That's the life that we are living now. So if you don't start to pivot yourself towards that direction, you find out that you'll be missing out on a lot of things. And then the last part is compounding. Compounding. People that are in finance, they understand the power of compounding. People that invest, they understand the power of compounding. They understand the power of compounding. So as you continue to build other areas, probably your reputation, you continue to build different areas of your life, your business, and all those boring things, they begin to position you to begin to give certain levels of value that makes you to ask for more in terms of your pricing, because you're now giving much more solution. I used to tell business owners, I say, you need to start thinking from a place of, how can I even create a revenue system that is subscription based? That is subscription based, especially for those that are offering maybe digital products or some form of solutions and all of that. How can I be able to create an offer that gives so much value and then it is subscription based? If you're not thinking in that direction, you wouldn't create anything like that because your mind is not there. But what's a recurring revenue, especially from a monthly standpoint, what it does for you is you set yourself up to have income flowing consistently. And if you're able to support that with a system that does not involve you every single time, you've just set yourself apart. So you need to start thinking. Sometimes it may even demand you to think about an application. These days, even somebody that is not technical, if you know an app called Lovable, or Kuso or some other AI related app, people can create apps within 1 hour. I put an hour because maybe after you write the prompt, you have to refine it or this and all of that. People can create applications that used to take years and months. So that's what happens when you begin to know the possibilities that you have around you. You see that you have so much choices to make, and you start thinking about which one is even the better choice. Because there's so much at your disposal. There's so much at your disposal. So begin to think how to compound. Do I need to add an additional offer to what I have? Do I need to create, more solutions to what I have? Begin to think in that direction. Okay, it may not be now, but this is what I'm going to transition into. This is what I'm going to do much more better than what I've been doing before. When you think consistently in that way, you would begin to make a difference. So as we wrap up, you're being in the leverage, circle, YouTube live session today, and you're not here just to consume information. You're not here to consume information. I want us to, intentionally take action with what we are hearing. And the easiest thing you can begin to do now is at least start with the different LLMs, understanding them, the dynamics, the possibilities of what you can achieve with them, understanding all of that, and begin to position yourself properly and ask yourself the right question. That I'm not just interested in building, but how I build matters more than what I build. So when you're leveraging on all these LLMs, how can I be able to use it to build correctly? How can I be able to use it to build correctly? Don't just let these sessions to inspire you alone. Let these sessions, let it be something that transforms you. Okay, because one of the reasons I'm doing this is to begin to bridge that knowledge gap. There is so much happening in the world from a global standpoint. There's so much happening that I feel like if you're able to tap into a fraction of what is happening early enough, you would set yourself up for good. Okay, and that's why I'm committing to doing what I'm doing, so that you begin to bridge that knowledge gap and you begin to take action. And you begin to refrain from being that person that builds like a laborer It doesn't matter the philosophies that people have, have been able to impute within your mind. That is not always true. That is not always true. So I want us to take action and ask yourself what is very important. Before this year comes to an end, who will I become? With the weapons or with the leverage, that level of leverage that I have, what will I become with that? What will I become with that? And that comes from the choices that we begin to make, the little choices that we begin to make. Okay, so we have come to the end of the session for tonight, and I believe that a lot of us we have been able to get value. When we meet next time, which is next week Friday, I would be getting to ask those of us that getting to get our input on those of us that are already using different LLMs, and certain discoveries that we are making from it. I want you to become inquisitive. I want you to become curious. These are powerful things that can really help you in your journey. All right. So when we meet next week, we're going to start from there. And I'll be knowing, what are the new discoveries that you have? What are the things that you've been able to, play with? The tools that you've been able to play with that is actually helping you. All right. And we want to begin to think in that direction together, so that you are actually taking advantage of this particular era. Okay, so we have actually come to the end of tonight's session, and we would definitely be repeating this by next week. And when we come next week, I would be getting some feedback from us. So put that in your calendar and make sure that you intentionally keep planning for these sessions, because it is going to be something that would be very, very profiting to you. And just like I said, it is brought to you by the AI Leverage Academy, just as a way to keep bridging the knowledge gap with respect to the possibilities within the ecosystem of AI agents and artificial intelligence. So we've come to the end of tonight's session. Thank you everyone for joining, and beyond just joining, let us continue to build correctly. Okay, so I'll leave the music on, and every one of us, we are free to go at any point in time. Thank you very much, and good night.
Another late night spreadsheet glow, head full of forecasts, eyes running slow. I've been trading my time like it can't run out, quietly winning, quietly in doubt. I've checked every box that they said to check. Still there's this question I can't erase. Something has to shift, more than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not giving up, I'm staying in. Something has to shift. I know the language of targets and charts. Can't hit every metric and still lose my heart. The world's moving fast, I feel it in waves. Maybe real progress means turning the page. What if the future is ours to redraw? Not just a script we inherit by law. Something has to shift. More than just the numbers on the screen. I've been climbing ladders that don't lead to where I used to dream. I don't need a break, I need a better way to live. I'm not stepping back.